So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's our first luthier interview, and today we have the astonishing, the ever charming, brilliant Cliff Wood. Please give him a round of applause. So, there are a couple of things that I specifically wanted to ask you today, and the rest of it we can just give the answers and I'll put questions afterwards. The first thing is, how did you get the idea of making a guitar out of bits of wood that you found in a skip?
Well, over lockdown, I tried making guitars. I built far too many guitars, actually, I got in my workshop, out of various different non-guitar timbers, and they're all absolutely amazing. And I thought, just for fun, I'd take some planks out of the skip down at the cabin in Perranocco, where they're rebuilding over the winter, and make a guitar out of that. So I took it up to the workshop, dried it out, sliced it up, planed it through, and built a guitar out of it.
And what's the difference in sound from your standard tops, for instance?
Well, the top is obviously full of knots, which look like chihuahuas, which is rather fun, and which is why it's called DOS Chihuahuas. And actually there are 4 of them, so it should be quattros perhaps. And it sounds as good as anything I've ever built. It really, it's in the bracing. That's my personal opinion. I'm pretty sure it's in the bracing, because conventional guitar bracing is basically the same as it was created 200 years ago for gut string instruments, not for steel string. And then in 1921, Martin brought out the orchestra model, the OM1, and beefed up the nylon strung bracing, is X bracing, for steel strings. It works, it supports the loads, and it's very satisfactory, but I don't think it's the best.
So in your opinion, the bracing is more important than the top?
Absolutely.
Well, there we go. That's the first novelty of the day. The other question is, you know, you made the one out of bog oak.
Yes.
Well, I'd like you to tell us about that, but first of all, the real question is, how old is that bog oak?
The bog oak was carbon dated by a Russian carbon dating team for the people who I bought it off in Croatia.
I'm sure we can believe it.
No, it is kosher, genuine, and it was carbon dated at 5,800 years, plus or minus 40. It had been in a lake, in the sediment at the bottom of a lake in Croatia, and it was carbon dated at basically older than the pyramids, which is rather fun. Which is why I decided it would be rather fun to break all the rules and regulations and build a nylon strung guitar with special bracing entirely out of oak.
Well, certainly, I'd say probably the first guitar in the world that's been made out of oak, as far as I'm aware, and certainly the oldest wood in the world.
Yes, but the prize guitar, this evening, is also made out of the same wood.
That was what I was going to come to. There are 2 guitars that one can get of yours at Hellys this year. One's the prize for the competition,
Yeah.
and the other one is being raffled. Can you tell us first of all about the competition guitar and then about the raffle?
The competition guitar, which I offered to you when you asked whether I had anything, was fine, and it's basically a copy of an 1827 René Lecote guitar with a 26-inch scale, and the pegs on it are rather extraordinary because they've got a 16:1 gear ratio gearbox inside. There are 2 4:1 gearboxes stacked on top of each other, so it will take very light gauge steel strings. The strings it's got on at the moment are Tomastic S 16s, which are steel rope cord nylon wrapped strings, and they're sort of I think crossover is probably the right word, between nylon strings and steel strings. They sound possibly about 30 to 40% towards a steel string sound, but they have an amazing advantage that they last for years, literally years. I put them on a guitar about 20 years ago, and 10 years after I sold it, somebody bought it off the person I sold it to, and it had still got the original strings on, and it sounded great. There's
And the other guitar?
The other guitar
And
is...
the charities involved?
Yes, the other guitar is the skip board guitar from the Italian Los Chihuahuas, or Los Cuatros Chihuahuas, depending on the point of view. That guitar, I thought, it's got a sort of beach theme. The sound hole is sort of sandy coloured, and it's quite a vibrant sort of summertime. And I thought it'd be a very good idea to raffle it, because I wasn't going to sell it. On behalf, 50% on behalf of the RNLI, who come down to the beach every year, and 50% to the air ambulance, both of whom are charities that I really seriously believe in.
That's a fantastic idea. And what's your where did you start off? Because I'm sure you weren't always, you didn't start your days when you left school with all that kind of, you didn't become a guitar.
No. I met in 1968. I met Dan Armstrong, who is a creative jazz musician and guitar and amplifier designer in the late 60s in London. And I worked with him for a year and a half. Basically, he wanted a qualified engineering designer, which I was at that time, who knew nothing about guitars. I'm not quite sure about this, but can you edit out?
Does he know anything about them yet?
he would be prepared to get slightly stoned, I think the word is, and come up with new guitar ideas.
And there, ladies and gentlemen, is how he came about his guitar strutting.
No, this is not true. This is not true. And that, I just felt I just wanted to make guitars. Because I just
so you
felt,
didn't get the munchies, you got the guitar munchies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, this is true. And the other thing, which I was telling somebody else earlier, is years ago when I was, 18, 19, living in Sussex with my stepfather, who was a retired engineer, and I wanted a friend of mine in quite a wealthy part of right north of Brighton, West Sussex. And a friend of mine got something rather expensive for his birthday. And I asked my stepfather whether I could have one for my birthday. And he said, no, why should you? And he was absolutely right. I can think of no reason, apart from personal desire. And he then said, if you want one, you can work for me on the farm and save up and buy one. Or during school holidays, you could go into the nearest town and you could get a part-time job with somebody and earn money and save up and buy it. And then he paused for a moment and said, oh, there is a third possibility. We've got a very, very sophisticated and big workshop over there. Have you ever thought of making one? And I'm not kidding, from that day, I have never looked back.
That's amazing.
It changed my life.
Yeah. So how long have you been making for now?
I came down, the first guitar I made was 1970.
That's before I was born. Wow, that's impressive. Well, we've got an array of your guitars over there. I'm sure you welcome people going over and looking at them and testing
anybody,
them, things like that.
they can sort of, if they're well behaved, they can pick them up. But
Under supervision.
really, yes, exactly. But above all, not more important, is actually to get some money for the RNLI and air ambulance, the tickets, which I will take off you today if you want to, are £5 each. And everybody has the same chance of winning.
Well, unless they buy 100 of them or something.
No, somebody has bought it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, somebody, a sound engineer friend of mine, Mark Hadley, came up and played the guitar, or actually saw me playing a couple of chords on it, and was absolutely, he thinks that for a fiver, it is insane letting that guitar go, because it is a very, very good guitar.
Well, I hope everyone's going to dig deep and get their fivers and tenors and 20s out.
Yes.
It's a very good cause, and it's lovely to see you again. You always have a special place in my heart, Cliff, you know that, because we have a love-hate relationship.
Yes.
He loves me and I hate him.
Yes. This is true. This is true. This is true. And I must say,
but he has built me instruments that are unrivaled.
Yes, but I'm actually quite pleased in a way that there is no stage this year.
Yes, nothing that you can't fall off.
The first interview I had with Jeff
Goodman, didn't you go off the stage?
I pushed my chair back and very nearly fell off the back of the stage.
Well, this year will be made sure, especially for you.
So
that's all.
I really appreciate that.
There's a safety harness.
And there's a safety harness. Jeff, it's lovely to see you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.